screen, and your questions aren't shown. I don't share names anyway because I think it's important to keep things private. It's just the talk that I'll do that will be coming up on Zoom, on YouTube. Okay, can't see anything in the chat box. Oh, there's some private messages. So separation has started and he's threatening divorce. I filed in 2018, now waiting for the court date. Separated for 3 years, divorce finalized this April. Still need to sort out the house that we own together. Wow, okay. Good morning. I'm going through mediation, trying to sort out the financial agreement. It's not working well. Yes, it's pretty tough. My conditional order is being approved today. Congratulations. I have a date for the first hearing, compiling questions on his partial financial disclosure. Wow, lots of you here sharing. It's brilliant to see. Welcome to those of you that are new here. I recognize some of your names, so I know that some of you have joined me before, and it's great to have you returning. You must be finding it useful, which is great to know. And if you've not been here before, let me explain to you how it will work. So initially, I share a little bit of information about the subject. And today, it's all about income and expenditure, why it's important, what you need to note down, and just a bit of information about that. So I'll talk for about 30 minutes. And then after that, I'll give you the opportunity to ask questions. I'll also share a little bit about how I work, so you get some information on that as well. So keep sharing on the chat box. I'll keep an eye on the chat box as well. So at least I can answer some questions as I'm going. But otherwise, I will answer your questions after my presentation. So let me just start sharing, and I hope you can see this okay. Let me know if you can see that okay. It's always good to know that my presentation is showing. And I got another message, just received confirmation that the divorce application has been approved and now sorting out finances, consent order. So for so many of you, today's talk is really important because people don't talk about income and expenditure very much. And it may be something that you're thinking about. We have to look at this constantly during a divorce because we need to know that you're going to make ends meet, but also there's a certain element of information that you need to provide to the other side and to the court as well. So it's an important topic, and I can explain certain things to you that you need to know. And feel free to ask me questions as I'm going through. If it's relevant to what I'm talking about, I'll answer, but share your experiences as well. So before I start on income and expenditure, let me introduce myself. Some of you will have come across me, but if you haven't, my name is Bhavna Radia. I am a former divorce lawyer, and I'm a single mum of 3 girls. I found myself in a similar position to you 13 years ago. So I'm much further along in the journey. But before that, I was married for 15 years. We've got 3 wonderful girls together. And I probably, like so many of you, thought, this is it. It's my forever. Dreams do come true and all this stuff. When you first get married, you're living in that place. And, very quickly I realized that things were difficult in the marriage. And, it's not necessarily his fault, my fault, but together maybe it wasn't, the right couple. But from that point of view, I struggled quite a bit. And we're always looking to see if we can change things when your relationship is pretty tough. But sometimes it just isn't possible to make that change. And it was really hard to make that decision for myself. I went through so many months of agonizing, years probably of agonizing over, should I leave? Should I stay? There was so much fear that came up for me that it paralyzed me almost. And I talk about this a lot. If you've spoken to me, you know that I talk about the fear that I was faced with. And I kept thinking, I've got 3 children. They're really young. How will I make ends meet? So today's topic is a little bit about that. I was really scared of the finances. At the time that I was making this decision, I wasn't working, and my youngest was 1 year old. So it was a time where I was thinking, how will I manage them? How will I work full time? There were so many things. I don't think I'll be able to bring up 3 kids on my own. Will I always be alone? You know, what is my life going to look like? And I was so scared that I was paralyzed. And slowly I realized I had to do this. I had to end the marriage. I felt like I didn't have a choice, but my future had been taken away. And I did go through the process. It was really tough. And luckily, I had legal knowledge, and I kept feeling gratitude for understanding the legal process, understanding the kind of things that needed to be dealt with. But despite my knowledge, despite my years of experience, I found the process really tough. And that's why almost I have to do these talks. I share so much because I have to empower you with knowledge, knowing that when I went through it, I had the knowledge and I still struggled. I can't imagine what it feels like for people that just don't have the knowledge. And there's so much mixed messages and so many questions you've got. My mental health took a tumble around that time because it was so stressful. But we got through it. We carved our way through it. And all I can say is that now, once the process was over, there was a sense of relief. I could start healing. I could start rebuilding. And obviously, I'm so much further forward than you guys. And if I can give you some hope that life does get better, that there is so many good things out there. I now have 2 businesses. I'm in a different home to the one I bought after my divorce, and things are really looking, so much better for me. The girls have grown up, so life is so much easier as well. So that's a little bit about me. Through my journey, I realized that practicing as a family lawyer was not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring something different. And I'll talk about that a bit at the end. So I'm going to move on to divorce and your wallet. What do you need to know about income and expenditure? I know that this time is really scary for you. I know that there'll be so many thoughts that come up for you, and particularly around the finances. It's an area around divorce that is complicated. It brings up so much fear, and actually getting some clarity will help you. So, the one thing that I always ask clients to do is work on their finances, start getting clarity, because with clarity, we can make a plan. With clarity, you will understand a lot more about what you need to do. It gives me an idea of how your finances could be shared and what options are available to you. So it's really important to do. Every day, people tell me numbers are daunting, and I really understand that. I was exactly the same, that I found just looking at numbers really daunting. But if you could take it one step at a time, just do one bit at a time, you will find that you will get so clear that suddenly this process doesn't seem as bad as it was. So, getting to grips with your numbers, if I could tell you that thing, get to grips with your numbers, what assets you have, what's in your name, what's in the other person's name, what liabilities, debts do you have in your name and in the other person's name, and what income and expenditure do you have. So I did this process with a client yesterday, and they were fascinated to see actually how this worked. They were really scared of it before, but we did it together and it was much easier. So once we know your income and expenditure, it gives us your affordability. I can then get really clear with you about the different ways that maybe things could happen in your divorce. So, for example, if you're keeping the family home, that might be your priority. And if that is your priority, knowing your income and expenditure can help me work out what your mortgage capacity is, whether this is affordable to you. I can show you what your life will look like if you keep the family home. So we've got this one priority, and I love working with my clients. Priorities, whatever they are. So if you said to me, keeping the family home is what I want, I would be able to work through the numbers with you and say, okay, this looks possible, this looks affordable, or actually, I'm a bit worried about XYZ. We need to do some work on that. So it gives me an idea of how things might look for you. It gives you an idea, a vision of what your life could be if you kept the family home, which is really important. We want you to be realistic. We want you to have an understanding. And also, there may be some things that we can change around to make it happen. And that's the really fun bit, that we could make it happen. It also gives us an idea of what is fair. So people don't look at income and expenditure and think, how does that give me an idea of what is fair? But it shows us, if you are short of money every month, that you might need a certain settlement. Maybe you get a greater share of the assets. Maybe we need to make sure that you've got some savings that could be invested to give you an income so that you're not in minus figures. We need to work on what needs to happen in your settlement so that things are affordable for you, but it makes it fair as well. So, for example, you might need spousal maintenance as part of your settlement, and I'll explain what that is, because you just can't make ends meet. And there may be that possibility to put something, a provision like that in to make this settlement fair. So really do work on these numbers that I'm going to go through with you. It also gives us an idea of what happens to any debts that you've got. If there are family debts, and looking at your income and expenditure, there is no surplus income, it may be that you can't take on the debts. And so again, it gives me a greater understanding. It will give you a greater understanding, so that we can plan for your future. And that's the really important thing. We're not planning for today. We are planning for your future. And this is a one-off thing. You know, when you get that financial settlement, it's a once in a lifetime. You don't get the option of doing it again. So we've got to make sure we've planned for your future. We've looked at what your life will look like. So there may be things that you need to reduce expenditure wise. There may be income that you could increase. So we need to look at all of that. It also shows us that maybe you need to work with a financial advisor, because a financial advisor can do a cash flow analysis with you. And what that does is that gives you a visual of what your life will look like up till 100 years old. And so you can plan for life events. One of my daughters has just got back from uni, and obviously it's an expensive process for the parents when your children go off to study like that. So planning for that, if you are going to support them, you need to know that you've got the income for it. My second daughter is now off to uni, so my expenses continue and I have to plan for this because, again, it's going to cost me quite a bit of money. And if you've got this, we plan for that. You might have a dream that you want a holiday home. And if it is possible, we can look at your cash flow analysis and see how you could save the money to make that happen. If it is that you've got some surplus, say, income there, but there may be, say, in year 5, that you could have a reserve. But how would you know that unless you plan for it? We need to plan for a retirement. What will happen to you on retirement? People forget about that. They make a settlement for today, and that isn't the right way of doing it. We need to think about what will happen when you're not working anymore. Where will your income come from? Where will you live? How will your life be? And actually doing this cash flow analysis, we can see what your life is going to look like at retirement, and we can plan for it. So it's definitely worth doing this exercise because it will give you so much information, and also working with a financial advisor, if needed, can help you as well. So what are we going to be talking about? This is just an introduction. Let's go. So income. What is income? Lots of people ask me, what do I include as income? Obviously, we know what the basic income is. You've got your salary or your wages from possibly your employment. You might be employed with a company. You might have your own company and you're employed in it. But if you're employed, you will get a pay slip and you will get a P60 every year. So you know that you're employed when you get that payslip. You might be self-employed, and by self-employed, you could work as, so I was talking to somebody who's a plumber yesterday, and they're self-employed. They have their own business, but the funds all come into their personal account, or their income goes into their personal account. Expenses go out of their personal account. And so all the money that's left over, it stays with them, and they pay income tax on it. They don't get a pay slip. It's not a set amount every month, but they're self-employed. You might get income from different sources. So rental income, if you have an investment property, you might get money from that. And what we're looking at with your net income, with your income from a rental property, is net income. So the rental money that you get minus your expenses would be your net income from that property. And you will find that your net income every month is different, because one month you've had maintenance, one month, for some reason, you've had to spend out some money. One month it may have been empty. And what we try and do is get an average net income. So we look at, say, 4 or 5 months, see what the income is over 4 or 5 months and average it. So we get an idea of what you're getting. Or we can look at your net income for the year and then divide it by 12. So we know every month this is the income on average that you are getting. You might get bank interest. So if you've got money in a savings account, you may be getting some interest from that. And that can be income as well, because it's money that's coming into your account. You could get dividends from shares. So you may have bought shares over the years and you get some dividend payments. You get money coming into your account from that. If you have your own business, you possibly could get a wage slip. So you're getting paid a certain amount every month as an employee, and there may be some spare money in the business. So you may take that out. You may draw it as dividends, and you would pay tax on those dividends as well. And that is a separate type of income, and it would go down as dividend income. You may not know what your dividends are going to be every month, but you can look at the last 12 months and work out what your average is over the 12 months, and that would be your monthly dividend income. You might get bonuses from your employment, and that people will always ask me, is that income? Well, it's money that comes into your account, so it should be classed as income. But bonuses change. You might get a bonus last year, you may have got one, and this year, possibly the company isn't doing so well and you don't get a bonus. So what happens? What we try and do is look at your P60 and look at the bonuses you got last year and average that out for this year, because we can never be sure what you're actually going to get this year. And then there's maintenance from different sources. It may be maintenance from your ex-partner for children. It may be maintenance for yourself from your ex-partner, so spousal maintenance. And I'll go through each of those. So child maintenance is something that is paid to you when you are living separate from the other parent, and you are the main carer of the children. So you need to do more than 50% of time with the children to get maintenance. That makes you the resident parent, and the resident parent has a basic entitlement to get maintenance from the other person, to contribute towards your income so that you can make ends meet. So for example, if the other person is having every other weekend with the children, that's contact with the children, and you do the remainder of the time, you will be entitled to child maintenance if the other parent, the non-resident parent, is working. If they're not working, you're unlikely to get anything, because obviously they can't afford to pay you anything. So it's calculated on the government calculator. You can search for what your child maintenance could be under the child maintenance calculator. So if you search for that, you have to put details about the ages of your children, how often they go to see the other parent's net income, because child maintenance is based on those two things: how often the children go and the other person's income. That will then give you a definitive calculation of what your child maintenance should be every month. And it's always worth checking that, especially when we're looking at income and expenditure. We need to know what child maintenance you could get. Don't rely on it, because if the other person loses their job, then obviously it could be a difficulty for you if you've got a mortgage based on child maintenance. It's an extra bonus if you can manage to get some child maintenance if the other person's working and you've got more than 50% of the time. So that is a possible income that you need to look at. The other maintenance type is spousal maintenance, and this is maintenance paid to you by the other person. Courts don't like spousal maintenance so much now. It used to be very popular years ago, and it worked a lot more when there was defined roles where one person was the homemaker, they didn't go out to work, and the other person went to work. And so where the couple got divorced, one person who's never worked would not have an income, and so they may need spousal maintenance to help them survive on their own. And we used to see spousal maintenance for life. So you would get income for life. It doesn't happen like that anymore. If you get spousal maintenance, it's usually for a limited time, say 3-4 years. If, for example, like when I got divorced, I had a 1-year-old. I wasn't working at the time, so I needed to build up my income. I got a level of spousal maintenance to support that, so that over a few years I could build up my income and stand on my own 2 feet. Also, my youngest would be a bit bigger, maybe not going to nursery and going to school, so I would have less expenses. So spousal maintenance is possible, but we need to know what your income and expenditure is and what the other person's income and expenditure is as well, to work out how much spousal maintenance might be needed and may be affordable as well. So that's different ways that you can get income in. And getting clear on your income helps you to work out what you've got to spend, obviously. But when you see the number, you will then work through your expenditure and think, okay, I've got this much coming in and this much to spend. So it makes you look at these things. Usually we don't. Money's coming in and going out, and we're not considering it. But we need to plan for your life. And so this can really help you. It shows you whether you can cover your expenses. It shows you what capacity you have to borrow, whether it is a loan or a mortgage that you need. And it also shows us how we could increase income for you as well. So generally, when you are putting down your income, whether it is just showing the other person what your income and expenditure is, whether you are doing this for your own purposes, whether you are doing this for formal disclosure, when you have to show the other person formally what your assets, liability, income and expenditure is, or whether you are doing it for the court, because the courts also will want this information if you end up in court. There is certain things that you need to put down. So you would write down your income, all of it, as I've explained: employment, rental, benefits, bank interest, any money you have got coming in has to be noted down. And then you might need to provide evidence of this income. So if you are doing financial disclosure, which is being transparent about your finances, you may need to provide evidence. And the kind of evidence that we would be looking at would be, if you are employed, it would be 3 months pay slips and your last P60. If you're self-employed, you are likely to be filling in tax returns every year to show HMRC the income that you have earned, and that will calculate the tax that you need to pay. So we would look at that and know that the income that you have earned and the tax that you've paid as well. If you've got dividends, rental income, if you're getting bonuses, all of this should be included either in your payslip, P60, or it would be included in your self-assessment. So we can pick that up as well. Maintenance could be proven through your bank statement. So you've got a certain amount of money coming in every month from the other person. So this is the kind of disclosure that you would need to provide. You may also be asked about potential changes to your income in the future. So we may have an idea of what your income is today, what it was in the last 12 months. But for example, you might be earning £100,000 right now, but you know that you're about to get a promotion, it's already been confirmed, and you're getting a £20,000 pay rise. That's only coming in next month. So you know that's a potential change in income for the next year and ongoing. You may be aware that there is redundancies in the company, and you may be in line for redundancy. So that is a potential change that will impact your income. So we may need to note that down as well, as to what might be happening. The other thing that we need to look at when we're looking at income is your earning capacity. And you may hear that term sometimes, earning capacity, coming up, because the courts will ask for it. Solicitors will talk about earning capacity. And usually this is asked about during divorce proceedings, because you might not be earning what, you might be working part-time, you might not be earning a full-time income. And you might hear the other side saying, I know you're earning X today, but what is your earning capacity? What could you earn if you worked full time? And so your earning capacity full time may be much greater. It might be that you can't work full time because you have got a physical or mental disability. You might have very young children, which means you just cannot work a full week. And so your earning capacity may still be the same, or it might be greater. So we need to look at that. I would ask questions to my clients as to their earning capacity, because it may be that the other side will be asking that. It's dependent on your experience. It's dependent on your working history. If you've not worked for 25 years, your earning capacity is likely to be very low. You might have to start at the bottom again and work up. And it doesn't matter that you're working a full week. It still might be quite low. So it may take you a few years to build up to a reasonable income. The other reason why people ask about earning capacity is because during divorce, often people will take lower paid jobs, or they might give up their job altogether. And sometimes this is on purpose because they want to get a bigger share of assets. They may say they've given up their job because they've got mental health issues. It may be that they've got some diagnosed illness, and that means they've given up their job. But we need to look at your earning capacity. So if you could get a job, what could you earn? So if somebody is not working today, and it is possible for them to work, we know possibly what they could earn, and we would take account of their earning capacity rather than their actual income. So it's looking at this is really important, because earning capacity will come up. The court does expect you to keep your income as high as possible. They don't expect people will just give up work and sit at home to get a greater share of their assets and then go back to work when their divorce is done. So it may be that if that's the case, you could work and you're choosing not to. The court would take what your expected earnings are instead of what you're actually earning. So that's a little bit about earning capacity, because I think it's important for you to understand that. So now I'm moving on to expenditure. Why do we need to do this at all? Like, why does the court want to get involved in expenditure? Why does the other person need to know your expenditure? And the reason why we need to look at that is because as part of your settlement, when we look at what your income needs are, that is your expenditure. You need to have income to cover your reasonable expenditure. But when you do this process of looking at your expenditure, what it helps you do, it gives you a chance to look at everything that you're spending at the moment. It makes you think about those direct debits that go out and you've forgotten about them, and maybe they need to be cancelled. It might be a gym membership that you've been paying out and you never go. So it's a good time to reassess what's going out of your bank account. There may be things that you could reduce. So, for example, I often come across people that are paying £70 on their mobile phone bill, and they look at that and they think, what is that? Why am I paying so much? And they reassess their contract and they've got it down to £10 because they're not using all the extra bolt-ons or whatever it is. Sometimes with, say, television subscriptions, we do the same thing. We might be paying 120, but if you renegotiate, you can get it down to 80, for example. So it's a good chance to do that anyway. It's also important to start planning for what your expenditure will be when you are living on your own if you're not already separated. So we need to know your expenditure when you live separately. And it may not be something that you've had to worry about for a few years. You may not have had to worry about all the bills. You know, you've got enough income coming in. And so therefore it all pays out and everything is fine. But when you live on your own, you need to be really clear about your expenditure so you don't get yourself into debt, but also so that we have an understanding of what we need to plan for, and how to share your assets, which is really important. So what do you need to provide as evidence for your expenditure? Well, you don't necessarily need to provide any evidence unless there was something that was huge, unusual, and we might need to see evidence of that. Most of this would be shown through your bank statements anyway. If you're already living separately, we could see that your mortgage is X. We don't necessarily need the evidence for it because we can see it coming out of your bank account. So we don't necessarily need evidence of expenditure. But what do you need to include? Well, you need to include everything you spend on. And a lot of people will either go really low when they're providing this to the other person. They'll go really low and they'll say, actually, I'll only spend £40 on food, even though there's 5 of us here. I'll never go to the gym. I won't ever cut my hair. But is that realistic? Is that actually what you're going to do? Is it even possible to feed 5 people with a £40 budget on shopping? Probably not. And so be realistic about your spending. Don't reduce it drastically because you want to show the other person you're going to make your expenditure really low. But don't overinflate it because, like for some people, I saw expenditure of £9,000 a month. That wasn't what the expenditure was when there was the whole family living together. So it's unlikely that that expenditure is going to be correct. But the other thing is, £9,000 a month, if you've got an income of 3,000, is going to be very difficult to manage. And so we needed to look back at that and make it realistic. People overinflate because they think they'll get a greater share of the assets. But sometimes it just upsets the other person. It's so unrealistic, no one's going to believe it. So you need to think about what you put down on the sheet. You can separate your monthly expenses into essentials and non-essentials. So essential expenses is everything you need for basic living needs. Mortgage or rent, utility bills, insurances, groceries, car expenses, insurance for your car. Maybe you've got childcare expenses, dentist, optician, anything like that that is essential. Then you've got non-essential expenses such as entertainment, holidays, beauty expenses, eating out, things like that, that actually you could cut down on slightly, but the essential things can't be cut down. You have to have those. So think about what you need to put down and how do you track it. So I do have a tracking sheet and I can actually share it with you. So let me just stop share now. And I'm just going to show you my tracking sheet because that might be quite useful for you to have a look at if I can find it. That is, let's see. Just need to be able to pick that up. Okay, there we go. So I hope that you can see that okay. So this is a sheet that I use for clients and we can share it with you when we send the replay out. So you've got something that you could use to track because the important thing is that you track everything in your income and expenditure. So you can see all the income coming in. We've put monthly and annually there. And then we've got all different things there. And these are headings for you to use to just remind yourself to go and look for those. So we've got entertainment for children. There's children's activities, childcare, presents, which a lot of people forget about. You need to think about saving for children's presents. You might have credit card payments, loan payments. You might put away a little bit of money for holidays. You may have a tax liability that you need to pay. There may be dental, opticians, all of those things. And you put it in here and it will work out what your total is. So are you in minus figures? Are you in plus figures? Which is something we really need to know. So something like this can really help you track your expenses. So that will come out with the replay. So let me go back to sharing my screen. See if this works okay. Should do. There we go. And really, the conclusion is take the time out to do this exercise. It seems really boring. It also feels like, why do I need to do it? But it will help you. Get it done. It's really important. Stay focused with where you are going, because there will be lots of these jobs that you need to do that you will put off. And I see people putting it off all the time. I did the same thing when I was going through it. But when we have your numbers, whether it is your assets, whether it is your liabilities, income and expenditure, then it's possible for somebody to be able to help you. It also gives you so much clarity that you will feel better, that you understand your situation. But take it as small steps. You don't need to do all of this in one day. Just do a bit at a time so that it makes it more manageable. And sometimes you need to get help with it. So if you do need help, then reach out to somebody who can help. So I am going to now tell you a little bit how to work with me. I hope you found that useful. So it'd be great to see your thoughts about what I've shared already while I'm taking you through just a little bit of information of what I do. So I help people in a really different way. And I'm so lucky that I get to do this work. I was on a call with my clients last night. We do an evening call, and they always introduce themselves to new people coming into our community. And it is amazing to see the feedback that I get on working this way. And with permission, I share the feedback. And look out for that over my socials. I'll be sharing that with you, because it is such a lovely space and a lovely way to work. Even though this is such a difficult subject, we have to find a way to get you through this in a supportive, holistic, empowering way. And I believe that this program that I have does that. It's 6 months of support and guidance. You have me in your corner, guiding you on everything, watching you doing all these things, helping you along all the different things that will come up for you. But you'll have so many questions that come up anyway, and I am there to answer your questions, to give you practical help, to give you legal help from my experience. But also, you've got a tribe of people behind you there to help you when you're having a bad day and you're struggling. You have got help. There's also people come with different knowledge and skills, and we're all there to help each other. So it is a lovely space. I help you with correspondence. So yesterday, a client had a question. They'd received an email. How do I respond to this? And we talked it through, and they had a transcript of what to write in an email back. And we are not just looking at legal writing. So how do we make sure we cover ourselves legally? But actually making sure that we're not triggering the other person, but you're getting your points across, because we want this to be an easy process as much as possible. I look at documents with you. I'll tell you what documents you need to prepare. I'll give you resources so you can prepare those documents. We do your divorce application. We are looking at your financial information, coming up with proposals. What's a fair settlement? How do you negotiate this? And I'm there as you're negotiating as well. Obviously not physically there, but I'm there available to talk to as the negotiations proceeding. It's a really supportive community. It is a group program, which actually is a really unusual way of doing this, but it works so well. There are other people on the calls, but you can stay anonymous. Over time, people feel so comfortable that they come off camera, they're talking quite openly. I have to keep, obviously, everything confidential, and I don't share anything that you wouldn't share yourself. So it's that sort of space. There's other experts coming in to talk to you so that you get a full rounded experience and all the information you need. You don't necessarily need a solicitor for divorce at all. You can do everything yourself. And through working with me, you are doing it yourself, but you're getting help and guidance throughout. The cost of it is 2,500 currently, and we are running an offer at the moment that you get 7 months. So you get August free if you jump on now, and then you'd be paying from September. So that's a summer offer that I'm running at the moment. So you can get started, you can start working on things during the summer, and then we're ready to hit the ground running in September. So let me know if that's something that you are interested in. But I'll take you through a client case study as well, because then you can see how we work things through. So client called, she's not actually called Angela, but Angela is the main earner. Her husband wants to keep the family home. He's earning slightly less than her, and he really wanted to keep the family home. She wanted a bigger house as she's the main carer of 2 children. That was her hope, and that's what she was going for, which is absolutely fine. And we worked through that priority that she wants to get a different home, and she's going to move out and she's going to buy a property. We got all her income numbers together. We got real clarity on the income from salary, from maintenance, from other places that she was getting income. We put it all together. We understood what she had coming in. I sent her off to get an idea of her mortgage capacity. So we had an idea of what she could borrow. We worked on particulars for where could she buy, what would she be buying, how close is she to the school. Also, things like how much is it going to cost her to buy that property. We also looked at her expenditure, and we managed to work out where she could reduce it because it was actually quite high. Made some changes, and then looked at her proposal. And actually, what she thought she was just going to go ahead and do, we worked out even though she could get a mortgage, she would end up in debt every month. And this was a difficulty for her. You would not want a client to get into debt. And we worked out that it wasn't possible for her to afford this much bigger property that she would like. And actually, staying in the family home would be the better option for her. It wasn't her priority, but once we talked it through, it also wasn't her priority to end up in a situation which she hadn't thought through. And it meant that she would get herself into a lot of financial difficulty. So when we worked it out, her staying in the family home gave her so many more options. She was closer to the children's school. She was closer to her support network. And then we put a plan in place where she could save the money to be able to buy a bigger property maybe 3 years down the line, which ended up being a better option for her. And we put that in place, and she was able to agree her settlement in that way. And she felt comfortable even though she hadn't started from that place. So it shows you sometimes getting clear can really help. And this was something that she said while she was working with me. She was really grateful for the work we did together. She felt really comfortable that she didn't have to worry too much. I would give her a couple of steps to do rather than think about the whole thing. She found the platform amazing. She found the community amazing. So I was very lucky to get. It wasn't actually something that I asked her to write, but she wrote that on our group. So I have lots of these testimonials, but I won't share them all with you here. If you would like to know more about the program, feel free to book a call. We talk through where you are going, and how I might be able to help. And as I said, I've got this offer running at the moment where you get 1 month for free. So do definitely reach out if that is something that you are interested in. I also have my planner, which is available on Amazon. You can purchase that from my website, and I'll give you details. It's not just a book to read, it's a book to actually take action on. So there's a lot of worksheets in there for you to write in, and you can download them as well. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to have a look at your questions, because I'm sure there's quite a few questions there. In the meantime, I'm just going to drop my contact details in the chat box for you to be able to book a call, for you to be able to reach out to me as well. And I hope that goes in there. I think it has. Yes, that's in there. Perfect. So let me stop sharing.